Welcome to the girls. We're here in my living room with my daughter,
I
Ginny,
love it.
my
We're in
right
the
hand.
living room.
Yeah, I just stop and think. No, we're in the family room.
Oh, the family room.
Yeah, the family room. Janine always calls it the living room. Nobody knows what room this is. This is the room we live in, but it's the family room. Okay. Anyhow, with COVID and all the changes, we started doing a lot of shows at our home. So
on location.
We just decided this is great. We have a lot of friends, and today I'm proud to say that a very, very, very dear, close friend of mine, she's a sister of mine, is a guest on my show, our show, and she was not feeling well for a long time, and every time we wanted to have her as a guest on the show, unfortunately she was not able to. Grace Senofonte, she is a mother of Todd Senofonte, who is the stud double for Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah,
and you did a show.
I did a show with Todd, and we were talking before we started the show. I think that might have been 25 years ago.
Maybe
25
longer.
plus years ago.
Maybe longer.
Todd and I had our show.
This is where he came from,
That's
his beautiful mother.
Yeah. 3 boys, right? You have 3 boys.
3 sons. Yep.
3 sons. My 3 sons. Gray is from Dunmore, and we met in 1996 when we were doing this show with, I believe, Todd, and he came to town to do an interview with Sammy. And of course, we met. We were in my store, Picture Perfect, and we met. And it was just like, oh my God, I felt like I knew you my whole life. Right. We just clicked as great friends. And through the years, I've seen some good things and I've seen some bad things. And I've gone through a lot of things with you because you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Right.
So that started in 1996.
The year that you met Mom.
That I did.
Yeah, you did it.
Oh. I'm such a Debbie Downer. It's all my fault. Everything's always my fault. But, I'm so used to it.
But when you're diagnosed with bipolar, are there levels of the condition?
It's my psychiatrist way back then in '96 told me that I was bipolar, and it's a step down from manic.
Wow.
All right, so
my beautiful aunt was manic.
Is that hereditary then?
Yeah.
Is it?
I have it on both sides.
Bipolar is hereditary.
Well, she was manic, and my dad's sister, I don't know if she was just bipolar because I never saw her only a few times in my life.
And what is bipolar?
My diagnosis, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I forgot everything. I mean, you asked me a question, I wouldn't even know what you were talking about. I can't talk on the phone, as Debbie would know. Couldn't talk on the phone. I wouldn't answer the phone. Lay in bed all day long. The one time it was 2 days I was straight in bed, not eating. It just affects people in different ways, though. So I'm bipolar. Some people, like I said, are manic. Manic are people that are supposed to be violent. And I remember Patty Duke was a manic, and I read an article about her. She was vicious.
Well, getting back to when you were first diagnosed, what about your life was so different that you sought to find out what was wrong?
Well, luckily, I was able to get an appointment with this one psychiatrist, and like I said, he's the one that almost killed me because he overdosed. He gave me 3 depression medicines. I was on 3 of them at one time. I was slurring my words. I was falling up and down steps, and I was trying to hide it from my husband because at the time his mom wasn't feeling well, and I didn't want, anything to interfere with that. And I went to my doctor's, my family doctor, the very next day. He takes my pressure. My pressure was 210/110. He said, Gray, you're stroke material. Get right down to the CMC. So we go down to the CMC. They take my blood. Less than an hour, I was airlifted to the Harrisburg Hospital. And the doctor told my husband that my lithium, he had me on lithium, Prozac, and I forget what the other one was. He said my lithium was through the roof. If I make it through the night, I'll be okay. And I was out of it for 4 days, and plus I had dialysis while I was under.
So I get a phone call from Frankie because I used to call Gray every day. and I wasn't getting an answer. And sometimes I knew Gray would get a little down that she would answer the phone, or people are busy. So 4 days later, I
Then
got the
you
phone
know.
call from Frankie telling me about what had happened to Gray. And you're just a living miracle. All I could say is what you went through with the dialysis and everything, and to come out of that. You came out of that like as if nothing had happened. So you had, you told me the one time that you could just feel great, and then sometimes you could go to bed, and the next day get up, you're a different person.
My
But what
depression.
was the, and I know Mom knows a lot because you talk every day, but how do you know it's a different, it's not like the norm? Like people have bad days and they have good days, and sometimes it's like, oh, the weather's crappy and you feel like crap. And then there's other days you're in a good mood. So how was it different that you needed to seek help?
Well, like I said, when I go to bed, if I'm fine, I wake up the next morning and I'm in a depression. It just hits me that quick. I take my medicine and I'd say to my husband, I'm going to lay down just for another hour. I'd be in bed all day. Couldn't get out of bed. Didn't want to
Meaning
see anybody.
exhausted? Just
Tired, but yet wide awake at the same time. Couldn't fall asleep. Deb, how many nights?
I would call, and if she was in a depression, sometimes she would answer the phone because I would call repeatedly. And she'd answer the phone, and she's like, Deb, I'm in bed. Well, Gray, what's going on? Come on, get up. I don't know what to do.
I
So
can't.
I would actually talk with her and and tell her what to do to get up out of bed, go in the bathroom. Now brush your teeth.
She would walk me through getting dressed, brushing my teeth, cleaning up the bathroom floor, anything. I go, Deborah, you're still there. Yeah, honey, I'm here. And she would walk me through just so I could get dressed for the day.
so what did something spark this, or was it just the hereditary and it brought it out at a certain age? Because when you were younger, did you deal with symptoms of bipolar?
No, not when I was younger. It started when we were on a cruise, 1996.
Mom's fault.
It's not my fault. I wasn't on the cruise.
Same year that you met Mom.
Same year I met Sam and Deb, and
Oh, maybe it was
could have been
Dad's
your
fault.
Could have been your husband.
Definitely. It's not Mom.
Probably
it
was
was
Sam.
Dad.
Had to be Sam.
Definitely.
Not Debbie. And I just felt funny on the cruise. I felt like I had the flu. I was very tired. And I remember the one day, Frank and I used to walk the ship 3 times a day. And it was a big ship, really big ship. And we only gained 3 pounds through the whole 7 days.
We only gained 3 pounds.
Yeah,
so you ate
which
pretty
is good
Yeah.
because and you could have whatever you want. It was wonderful. Then I just felt sick. I felt tired. I thought, well, maybe I'm coming down with something. And that was the beginning of my first depression.
So when you got home from the cruise and you got everything all settled, your relation, weren't sick, what was the feeling? It's just that you just weren't coming out of that, so that's when you went.
I couldn't come out of it. No matter what I did, I just couldn't come out of it.
So going to the doctors and having the doctors treat you for depression, you've been through all kind of medications.
every
You've had
one of
your
them.
highs, your lows, your this, your that. What has been the longest time that you've been in that depressed state?
I think my longest is probably like a 3-month period.
What?
Yeah. Right
3
there?
months you didn't leave bed?
This
No,
last.
I would get out of bed, but sometimes I would watch TV. Most of the times, I wouldn't even put the television on, and I love to listen to music when I'm well. I have the music on. I tell Alexa every day, play Johnny Mathis, play Dionne Warwick, play Luther Vandross, play anybody, and I just listen to them. I have one song that's my favorite that Johnny Mathis sang, and it was Begin the Begin. And my daddy, when I was a little girl, my brother told me that when he would come home from work, he would pick me up and dance with me. And that was his favorite song. So I have a picture of him, a 5x7, because he was a professional boxer. I have a picture of him, and when the song comes on, I blast it. And I get the picture, and I hug it, and I dance for him.
This is when you're good.
When I'm good.
When she's not good,
I
you
don't
can't.
listen to
She
any
doesn't know what
music.
to eat. She doesn't know.
Nothing.
You can't remember things.
I can't remember.
You'll even say to me, Deb, I want to make something, but I don't remember how to
You
fry an
followed
egg."
me through the one day, remember? I forget what it was I was making.
Yeah.
But your mind My mind now, maybe a lot of people that are going through a different kind of depression, but my mind is completely blank.
Does bipolar go along with depression?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
highs.
just high and
Yeah,
low.
Is the
Most.
winter worse?
Winter
Especially in
usually,
northeastern Pennsylvania.
for me,
It's hard.
it is very hard. Now, I met a really nice guy in the ER the last time I was there, and he was battling it for 2 straight years, not coming out of it. I thought, oh, dear Lord, please help this man. Now he got an appointment with my psychiatrist, and I said, I know for sure you will get help. Because our doctor, Dr. Lawrence, before he retired, he said, Gray, I don't know what else to do for you. He said, but I know this one psychiatrist can help you. So I got an appointment with them. He diagnosed me as bipolar, and he gave me medicine, and it was, I can't think of what I'm on now.
Lexapro.
Lexapro. Well, it took six days for it to kick in. Seventh day, I was as good as could be, went right back down the very next day. But he started me on a very low dose. So then the last time I went to him, he increased it. And I've been out of it now, thank God, for it's about 3 weeks that I'm me.
Well, we're going to stop you right there. We're going to take a quick break. Please support all of our advertisers. It's through their advertising on our show that we're able to bring these great shows to you. And again, don't forget you can watch us on ssptv.com, on our YouTube channel, anytime, anywhere, as well as all of the other shows. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome to the girls. We are having a conversation with a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Grace Senofonte. She's from Dunmore, Pennsylvania, and Grace suffers from bipolar depression. We were talking earlier about how your depression started and how you were diagnosed, but I, being a very close friend of yours, know that you had some very low times and very scary times for your family and for your friends. Do you want to share one of those experiences with us?
Well, my worst experience was 4 years ago when I overdosed. And I was in such a deep depression that I remember getting up and putting a handful of pills in my hand and swallowing them, and another handful. I laid on the couch, and the next thing I remember was 5 days later when I got out of ICU. My heart stopped. I had, well, I don't remember anything really as far as...
This is all from what Frankie, your husband...
Yeah, my husband came home, and he found me on the floor in the living room, and he couldn't wake me up. So he called the ambulance, and then I was in ICU for 5 days. Didn't open my eyes for 5 days. My husband stood at my side for 2 straight days, morning, noon, and night. He had to call my 2 sons, or get them in from California, and the doctor came in, and he told my husband, he said, you know, my hands were, I was sitting up, and my hands were like inward, and the doctor said, I've seen this before, and it doesn't look good. He goes, you better call a priest. So I had my last rites. Then he had to call Todd and Scott in California, get them in, because they thought I was going to die. Then my heart stopped, only for a second or two. And Frankie said, just like you see on TV, code blue, doctors, nurses coming from every which way. And then it was only, thank God, only for a second. But Scott could only stay in 2 days because he had just gotten a new job with Fox 11 in California. So my husband said that as soon as he left, the very next day, I opened my eyes. But I wouldn't know anybody. I still had the tube in me. My 2 front teeth were cracked from the tube. I got a really bad sore in my tongue from the tube. And still to this day, I can't have anything spicy, eat anything spicy, right, Deb?
Right.
And then Todd, he was my husband's right arm. If it wasn't for Todd, I don't know what my husband would have done, because he said, to someone, I forget, one of the relatives, he said, I can't walk in that house without her. And that was it.
So when you took the pills, did you know you were taking the pills?
Oh, yeah, I knew. I wanted to die
Why?
because I didn't want to live like that anymore. I wasn't living, I was just existing. And it was just I've been through it for so many years that I thought to myself, I'm never going to get well again. You don't get well when you're depressed, when you have bipolar. You just have to deal with it. And there are medications out there that help. That's why there's so many suicides, because people think that there's nothing there to help them.
And to me, hearing that is so sad because you love your kids more
I
than
love
life.
my kids more than life.
3 kids, boys, and your husband married 54 years?
56.
56 years.
It'll be 56
Yet
in
you
November.
still felt like you had...
I was alone.
Yeah.
I had nobody.
And I'd call her and I'd say, great, but what's wrong? Like, why are you depressed? Deb, I don't know. I just don't know. And then she would just say, I can't even talk to you. I can't even form a sentence. I can't talk to you. And it's just be so hard to be the person who cares about you so much to not be able to help you.
I know.
You know?
There's nothing they could do. You have to help yourself first of all. And they say, oh, the first thing, when someone says, it's the worst thing you could say to a person who's depressed is snap out of it.
Right.
That's the word, and that's all I heard from so many people. Snap out of it. And then, after I did come out of my ICU, they're telling me I was a miracle. And I go, why are you saying I'm a miracle? I try to kill myself. I don't feel like I was a miracle.
God didn't let you do it.
He didn't want me to do it because he wanted me to do this show today with you girls.
And help other people.
Yeah. And that's what I do. My husband gets mad at me because I'm a blabbermouth, but
In a good way.
in a good way.
Well,
I hope.
Seeing her today, how she is well, and she's so chipper and happy and cheery, and it just, you would never,
That's how I
ever
always see her.
believe.
And then when my mom will call me and say, oh, Greg, because you were supposed to do the show several
So
times.
many times, a lot of times.
Gray's in her depression. I'd be like, how is that possible?
It's paralyzing.
It is. It is. Like, if I'm in bed, I'll be looking at the clock, and the day would go by so slow. I couldn't sleep, but I had to lay there. I'd only get up to go to the bathroom and to eat. I lost my appetite. I couldn't eat. Luckily, Frankie would make dinner. He's been getting pretty good with that air fryer.
He's getting real good with the air fryer. I'd be on the phone with Frankie saying, okay, now just get this or that and try and talk him through some simple meals. But the main thing with you is when you do come out of it like you are now and you're feeling well, a lot of times you can't sleep. Because you're
know.
afraid to go back to bed. You were telling me that you might get up the next day.
Yeah.
She doesn't want the day to end because
Yeah.
she doesn't know what
you
the
know
next day is going to be.
Is it not a matter of if, but when it will happen again?
Right. And also, the anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety. So the doctor did give me, I had to increase one of my pills for the anxiety. But there's something about, as soon as I come out of it, I can't sleep.
Well, you're sleeping a lot, I guess, when you're in it.
I'll be staring at the walls, 4 walls, and I go, this is ridiculous. So I get up, and I'll start doing something. And then if Frankie usually doesn't sleep the whole night through anyway.
It's a party at night.
So he
Call
comes.
Mom, she's up too.
He comes in, he sees me in the kitchen. You mean you didn't go to sleep yet? And if he'd say something like that, I look at him and don't say anything. I tried to sleep. I was in the bed for an hour, couldn't sleep. I wasn't going to lay there for 4, God knows how many hours, which I did a lot of times, a couple hours. And I thought, this is it. I got to do something.
So you get caught up with all the things you couldn't do
Yeah.
when you were depressed.
And it felt so good to do them, because when I was sick, they were such a chore for me. I thought, oh, how am I ever going to do this? How am I going to vacuum? How am I going to clean the toilets? How am I going to clean the floor? Luckily, Scott is home with us now, and God love him. He does all my vacuuming,
so
which
it
I'm
would just
happy
in your
about.
head be like an overwhelming task?
Absolutely.
And is that regulated through medication?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the anxiety, I think I take a pill for anxiety. I'm not sure because, like I said, Frankie does all
They
my
just
meds.
changed a lot of your medication.
Yeah.
You have a new therapist.
Yeah, well, no, I still have Dr. Chandra Giri, who is wonderful. And also another time that I overdosed and I didn't know it. Remember you said I was hallucinating? All I remember is waking up in the hospital. And the nurse was trying to feed me. And I was looking up in the ceiling and I'm seeing Frankie and Mark, my oldest son and my husband, in like a cubby hole in the ceiling. I was hallucinating. And I'm going to them, come on, hurry up. If the nurse was away from my room, it was all hallucination
From the medicine.
from the medicine I was on.
How did you know that you had anxiety versus depression versus the bipolar? Like, what are, like, everyone
Well, the
feels
anxiety,
at times anxious, but how are you diagnosed with that? For people who are watching who might have the symptom and say, God, I don't know what's wrong with me because I was misdiagnosed, or I might have this, I might have. How do you know? You
well,
have to just get
I've
treated?
had 3 psychiatrists so far. And in fact, I have an iPad appointment with this one psychiatrist who's my sister-in-law's psychiatrist. And she's been going through bipolar for a lot of years also. And she said he's wonderful. But I like my doctor. They put me up on the 7th floor the last time I
Tell
was
them about
in.
the experience when you were admitted into
Oh.
the in-care unit.
Well, I wouldn't wish that on a dog, first of all. Frankie brought in a bag with all my clothes and everything. They looked through everything. I couldn't have deodorant. I couldn't have toothpaste. I couldn't have a toothbrush. The toothbrush that they gave me just had the head with the bristles and only a little tiny bit thing to hold it, to brush your teeth.
'Cause that's considered a weapon.
Oh.
Everything. Oh, and the lockers didn't have doors on them. They had brown bags for your dirty clothes or your linens when you leave them outside your door, and they would take them, or you could do your own laundry. I met 2 wonderful people. You know me. I meet everybody, and I'm friends with them, even if they're nasty to me. And I met 2 friends in there. The one friend who left the day before I did, she called me up. Oh, and then the phone, when you have the phone, the hook on it is only like that long, and you're like this. It's like you're talking to the wall.
Again, if you have a cord, you could use that.
You could use that, a
Kill
weapon.
yourself.
So what did they do there? What did you learn there? What was the treatment there?
Not really. Well, you do meet with your psychiatrist or his associates, and
It was
they'd ask
mostly
you.
to observe you
Right.
and to see what was going on
Okay.
because she had so many different things going on that the observation process was able to determine exactly what was happening and what would trigger what
Right.
would happen with
So now
you.
this is something that you live with, right? So how
Oh,
do you?
absolutely.
We only have like a minute left, Mom. So
Right.
what's-
So in your last minute of the interview, is there something you'd like to share with the people that are watching about?
I would love to tell them, don't ever give up. There's help out there. You just have to find your right combination with your medication, and it could be helped. You could be helped by whatever doctor you have. Just don't give up. That's my main thing.
and take your own advice. Don't
And
give up.
Don't give up. And the reason why we're married for 56 years is I just walk away from my husband. I don't say anything to him. If we have an argument, I just walk away or don't talk to him.
No comment.
That's the secret
No
of a 56-year-old marriage.
You just don't give up.
Don't give up.
And on that note,
Gucci
Gucci
agrees.
says that's a wrap.
That's
Thank
a
you
wrap.
for coming on the program.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank
Greg.
you.
We're going to continue to hang out here. Make sure you watch the girls on SSP TV. You can check us out online, ssptv.com. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.